A man is found dead, shot. This man's name was Mr. Blue. Another man, Mr. Green, is arrested for the murder of Mr. Blue. At the trial, the defense attorney was forced to remain silent and seated while the prosecution presents the evidence to the jury and judge for a murder conviction. The defense was told that if he spoke out, he would lose his job. The prosecution brings out dozens and dozens of witnesses, all who say that they saw Mr. Green kill the man who is now dead. How can you deny the fact that we have the gun that fired the bullet that was found inside of the dead man, with the fingerprints of the accused all over the murder weapon? Video footage from security cameras is presented before the jury of the accused Mr. Green shooting Mr. Blue, and the fingerprints and the murder weapon are presented before the judge and jury. By legal loopholes, the prosecution has successfully been allowed to silence the defense attorney. The prosecution also informs the jury and the judge that his opponent is biased, and that his opponent is being paid by the defense, Mr. Green, to present a case for defense, while the prosecution presents himself as an unbiased neutral party. The trial drags on for weeks. Eyewitness after eyewitness comes forth to tell the prosecution that they in fact saw the accused shoot the man who is now dead. Then, one day, the defense attorney stands up and announces that he will now speak. Enraged, the prosecution objects and cites the laws that he has used right along to silence his opponent. The defense then informs the judge that these laws in fact do not exist, and he then presents laws that show that in order for a fair result to be obtained, both sides must be allowed to present their cases in court. The judge looks at the laws and looks at the defense and says, "Proceed." The enraged prosecution then sits down. The defense lawyer then proceeds to inform the people that justice can only be made by hearing both sides of the arguments and both sides of the evidence. Up until this point, the prosecution has been claiming that the defense's story was that the accused was in another state at the time of the crime, but the defense informs the jury that this is simply not what they want to argue. The jury is informed by the defense attorney that evidence is a funny thing. It does not truly speak for itself, but rather has to be interpreted, and that there was a better interpretation for this evidence. The defense tells the jury that he agrees that his client shot the man who is now dead, but it was in self-defense. The man who was now dead had attacked the accused and was threatening to blow up a bomb that was tied around his chest. A woman in a business suit comes into the courtroom carrying the now disarmed suicide bomb that had been removed from the deceased Mr. Blue. The prosecution objects that this evidence is not valid in court and had been legally suppressed using an anti-terror law that outlawed the mention of bombs in court. The evidence was admitted, however, due to the fact that the defense was able to show that the law had been misquoted by the prosecution. The witnesses were brought back into the court. Hundreds of people came forth. Out of the more than 300 people who came forth, all but a handful said that the accused had shot the man in self-defense. The prosecution objected that the character of all of the hundreds of people who came forth was skewed, and that they must have been bribed, since we know that the accused had to have murdered the man. The prosecution pointed out that no other explanation should be allowed in court. The prosecution went on to argue that because the defense's story had implications that he did not like, it should be thrown out of court. The man who was accused was found innocent and eventually given a medal by the president who had come into office just a week earlier.